Hi guys, and welcome back to another Sonic Academy tutorial. In this one we're going to have a look at adding some pad sounds on top of our beats and our bass lines. We've already got our wee run bass line here, so I'm just going to create another instrument, and we're going to have a look in pads here. So let's take you back, you can see where that came from. So it's all instrument patches again, Reason Factory Sound Bank, all instrument patches, and we're going to go into pads. And we're going to look for a static pad, and I'm going to just show you a different technique in getting the information recorded, the MIDI information recorded into the program. So if I go in here and select a pad, I'm going to open up another window here that we haven't used yet, and this is our on-screen piano keys. And this means that anytime we have an instrument highlighted, either highlighted in the rack window here, or we have it highlighted then in our arrange window, you can see whenever I move between each one of those, you get a little red outline around the actual instrument, the wee small version of the instrument there. That means that whichever one of those is highlighted like so, your on-screen piano keys will then control that particular instrument, and this just allows you to use the keyboard on your computer like a keyboard, like a MIDI keyboard. So if you don't have a MIDI keyboard, or you don't have it plugged in, or you simply couldn't be bothered setting it up just to record something in, you can use the keyboard on your computer instead. So it starts at the C note is A then on the left hand side, right the way up to your speech mark up at the top on the right hand side. Your Z and X buttons then will move the octave up and down. You can see the octave moving up and down here. That's where that green section is. That's the current octave that you're playing. Like so. So this means that I can then just play around my track and use my computer keyboard then to come up with some ideas that are going to work with what I've already got. So I'm going to record some basic chord sequence in here, but I'm just going to take this back to the start, and I'll show you what happens. So if I just press play, I can then play the keyboard using the computer keyboard along with what I've already got. Like so. The only thing that I'm going to do before I start recording here and show you how to do that is I'm going to go back into our arrange mode here, and I'm going to zoom out, and I'm going to highlight all of this, and I'm going to hold down Alt, click, and drag that out, because I think it's going to be an 8-bar sequence that I'm going to put in with the chords. So I'm going to lengthen that out to 8 bars. Now what I'm going to do is record in what I'm playing on the keyboard, and to do that's fairly simple. All you need to do is hit this record button, and it will automatically start playback and record, and it will create one of these clips, and any MIDI information that comes from your computer keyboard through your on-screen piano keys will then be recorded into that clip. So the other thing that we want to do before we start is to hit this button here, which is our pre-count button, and what that'll do will give us a click of 1 bar before it actually starts recording, so it gives you a wee bit of time to get ready. So I'll just demonstrate that without actually recording anything, just so you can see what happens. Like so. And if nothing is actually recorded into that clip, then it just disappears. It doesn't save it as an empty clip. So let's just take that back to the start, and this time I'll actually record something. Now don't worry if you miss the first bar or anything like that when you're recording, because this will continue to loop around, and you can keep recording and recording, and it'll just play those notes in on top of what you've already recorded. So we'll give it another go then. like that. So if I double click and go in and have a look at the chords that I've got in here, I had to record that a second time because it only picked up one note on that third chord. So I had to record that in again, and it's missed out one of the notes on the second chord here as well. Just sometimes whenever you're playing with on-screen piano keys, this can happen. It's less likely to happen if you're using a MIDI keyboard, that the MIDI note will definitely go through, but using a computer keyboard, sometimes it'll miss some MIDI notes, but you can go back in and draw those in. The other thing I'll show you here is I've got this section turned on, which is quantize record, and what quantize does is take any notes that have been played inaccurately, and it'll automatically move them to the closest grid line within your clip. So I'm just going to take that out. Let's delete that, and I'm going to turn this off, and I'll show you how that works. So we're going to do exactly the same thing, play the same chords with our pre-count, but we've got our quantized record off this time. So if I zoom in on some of our notes here, you can see that the start of those notes aren't then locked perfectly into that grid, and all depending on what type of sound you're using. Sometimes it'll sound fine, like if this is a sort of a dreamy pad type thing, then that'll probably sound grand, but sometimes you'll want to kind of lock those tightly into the grid to make sure that the rhythms are working perfectly well. So what I can do is either record that again, if I delete that, turn my quantized record on, and record the same thing again. And if I zoom in there and have a look, now the start of those notes are all perfectly locked into the beginning of the grid. If we just have a look at the last one here, you can see that there is something that's slightly different. Like here, if we look at this section, we've got one note that's just a tiny wee bit out, and the reason that that section is out, if I just zoom in and we can have a look, the reason that that section then is slightly out is that whenever I played the note, it was closer to this grid line than it was to this grid line, so the quantize is then moving it to this grid line. But all you need to do is just click on that note and just slot it back into place like that. You don't need to worry about the ends of the notes, especially with a big pad sounds like this. It won't really make that much difference. So there's our chord part recorded in using the quantized record to lock it into place, and using our on-screen piano keys to record that MIDI. Alright, we'll see you in the next tutorial then.